Pygmalion is on the main stage at Williamstown Theatre Festival through July 27th. George Bernard Shaw, who received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1925, creates a very sharp satire on class and women's independence in his century-old masterpiece. With all the parallels of a modern reality show makeover, an impoverished flower seller is taken in hand by a linguistics professor who attempts to change her accent and pass her off as the epitome of English society for a wager. Nicholas Martin, fresh from directing this year's Tony Award-winning Best Play Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike, returns for a 16th season to Williamstown. Pygmalion features Robert Sean Leonard, known for Dead Poets Society and House, plays Henry Higgins, and he returns to the festival after starring in the 1997 hit production here of Dead End, also directed by Nicky Martin. Eliza Doolittle is played by Heather Lynn, star of Boardwalk Empire, who began her career at WTF as an acting apprentice, and last year wowed audiences and critics in the production of The Blue Deep. It is a great pleasure to welcome Robert Sean Leonard and Heather Lynn to the roundtable. Thank you both very much for being with us.
You're very welcome.
So at what point when they say, oh, we would like you to play Henry Higgins, you say, oh, that sounds cool?
Not at first. I thought about it. I didn't want to play it. I only knew Henry Higgins as Leslie Howard, and I guess a little bit of Rex Harrison, but mostly Leslie Howard. And it wasn't a part that ever attracted me. But I love Nicky, and I wanted to work with him. And but the more I thought about it, and then I read the script a few times, and once, to be honest. And I found at one point that the mother says, every time my friends meet you, they stop coming to my house. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Shaw wanted him to be quite rude and quite upsetting to his mother, which I always thought Leslie Howard, it never occurred to me that he was, I mean, he says cutting things, but he's not someone you'd never go to someone's house after meeting, again after meeting. So I thought, well, that might be fun. I asked Nicky. I said I'll do it if I can have a lot of food on stage. I'm thinking of Oscar Madison and The Odd Couple. I want him to be unpleasant. I want him to be messy. I want him to be like Robert Downey Jr. in the '80s, just a little bit dangerous, and someone that you would think, okay, I think we're not going to go to that house again. So that was the first thing that got me excited about trying it, and trying it, I am.
And for you, Heather, of playing one of these iconic roles, because most people, whether they're familiar with the name Pygmalion or not, are probably familiar with Liza Doolittle.
Yeah, I think I'd never seen a production of Pygmalion, and I'd seen Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady probably 50 times when I was little. So yeah, my associations with it were definitely from the musical, and I love Shaw, but I had, for some reason, just never really found this play. I'd never read through it all. I think I maybe assumed, as I think some people do, that it's very close to My Fair Lady. And I was struck when I read the play, when this started happening, that how different it is in a lot of ways, and how seriously Eliza is taken in the play. I think Shaw sort of accidentally took her seriously, because I'm not sure he liked women much. But I found that when I was approaching it, I just Shaw provides a prologue and an epilogue within the content of within the play, and I decided to just use as much of what was on the page, exactly on the page, including those sort of essays he wrote, to inform what I was going to do with the character, and try as much as I could to put blinders on to my other associations with My Fair Lady, or with Audrey Hepburn, or with Julie Andrews, or anything that I could kind of just keep those things at bay for a while, knowing that my preconceptions of the character and her iconic nature would come back, which it has, and it's been interesting to deal with playing Eliza and with Robert and figuring out when those sort of stereotypes are important, and actually when they're part of the play, and when I can find that she's a real woman, which I think Shaw brilliantly wrote.
When you get a play like this where the relationship between the two of you is so important, how do you get that down in such a short period of time?
Well, you need a good actor to do it with, but I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, that's true of any play. you find it in rehearsal. You decide what you want, line by line, and you discover what you want, and you watch how the other person reacts to that. And I don't think a relationship is sort of an objective thing. I don't. It's that's not really our work. That's the audience's impression. Our work is just our own motivations and reacting to what the other actor does.
Yeah, I think the relationship also is made more clear when we are doing our own selves as much as we can. Like, as much as we're playing just our characters and we're not anticipating a reaction, or we're not, asking for some special treatment. I think some of the best stuff that we've found in the relationship in this play is when we're both standing up for what we need, and whatever happens between us when there's a conflict with what we both want, that's kind of what relationship is. And when we come together, which happens infrequently in this play, on the surface anyway.
For you, Robert, of working again with Nikki, and I mentioned Dead End, I think it still remains my favorite production I've seen here. It was one of the most incredible productions I've ever seen.
Thank you. I take full credit.
As you should. Do you look back at it fondly?
Very, very much so. It was a remarkable production. Even I agree with that. It's a remarkable play. Sidney Kingsley, I was so surprised at how fresh it was, and it didn't seem dated, and the social struggles in it didn't seem stale. Well, you're also incredibly lucky. We had Campbell Scott and Hope Davis and Scott Wolf and Marion Seldes, and an incredible, really, dream cast. I was very proud of it.
So what do you get from a good director like that?
It's hard to say. One thing a good director does, it seems boring and practical, but he brings a good team with him. One thing I've noticed, with Jack O'Brien and Dan Sullivan and people, yes, it's the day-to-day rehearsals, and they're being observant and helpful, helping you find your way. But also it's the ability to attract Alex Dodge, who did our set, to attract the right designers, the right creative team to support you. And Nicky has not only great taste, but he has great friends. And that's something young actors probably don't think about, but that's a big part of the show, is when your agent tells you who's directing it. Unless you're doing, it's like an NYU student production or something. But in the real world and in professional theater, the director brings the design team. And that's extremely important. And I don't know, maybe Jack O'Brien's up there, but Nicky's hard to beat in that department. So once you have that, and then obviously you need someone smart and who knows about acting and knows how to help actors get out of holes and create specificity where there is none, and with younger actors and sometimes not so young actors. And Nicky's got it all. He's just everyone has to be good when you put a show together, but the director is key.
I met Nicky when I was first here as a non-equity company member in 2008, and he was the artistic director at that time. And I was just always, I never worked with him before now, but I was always, I think it actually links into what Robert just said, is that I would notice he kind of had a sphere around him all the time of respect and of people admiring him and collaborating with him. And I remember thinking that seemed unique. And then getting to work with him on this is, I recognize that he's a legend, and I saw Vanya Sonia-Masha Spike before I left New York, and I think his taste is just so right on, and I think his understanding of the tone of a play is really profound. So I was just excited to come and see what he had to say, and he's very specific with the notes he gives. I think he's sort of economic in that way, but he doesn't say too much or too little, and I tend to like directors who kind of leave me alone for a little while, but then, sort of get under my skin at some point if there's something I'm afraid of and I'm not doing. He's a joy, and he's such a nice man to have in a room. That makes a difference too.
What do you do in that alone time? Is it, because a lot of it I would think would be thinking about it, right?
Yeah, for this play, I had about 2 months before this started where I knew it was coming, and having been here before and knowing what a short rehearsal process it is relatively, I wanted to be, and I knew I was entering a production that had been staged once before, and with Robert Sean Leonard, and I had to impress. So I came. No, I came in pretty prepared. I did. I wanted to know the language really cold, and I knew how important that was for a Shaw play anyway. And then because this play, the content itself is about language and about, I think, characters. I wanted to just make sure that came as easily as it could for me, and about dialect, which I worked with our dialect coach, Deborah Hecht, a few times before I came here to Williamstown. So yeah, that was my preparation. It was kind of mental, but in fact, I found that I was focusing a lot on the language and around on speaking it. So in some ways, speaking is really physical. I mean, I think it's incredibly physical. And so I was working on the thoughts, but mostly I was just seeing what it felt like to say it over and over and over again, which really informed me in an experiential way, I think.
Robert, you're just coming off of doing Atticus Finch and To Kill a Mockingbird in London, and now playing Henry Higgins. Is there? Are you getting more used to these more mature roles?
Yes, I love them. I mean, you just there's nothing interesting to say for me about that. Yes, that's true. It surprises me, when the call came to talk to me about Atticus. I did think, well, surely they've lost Campbell Scott's phone number because they've got the wrong guy. But then you're up there and your girl's on your lap and you're telling her to lift her head high and put her fists down, and you think, well, actually, I guess it's all perception. You say you're this, and people will believe you. I have kids of my own now, and I didn't enjoy playing Romeo. I'm looking forward to older roles. Yeah.
Did television help that? Did House the years in that, in the sense of figuring out the maturing of an actor?
I don't know. I really don't know what House did. It was an enjoyable experience, mostly because of Hugh Laurie, who I knew beforehand, but I don't know. It was a bit like coming off of an international flight or something. I landed that show ended, and I ended up in San Diego with Nikki doing this, and it did feel a bit. I was a bit disoriented to be on stage again. I mean, I had done a play in the interim, but I feel different. I do feel older than I did 10 years ago, but that's no surprise. I feel more, a little more careless, which is nice. When you work with Mark Rylance or Vanessa Redgrave, or my first Broadway show was with Derek Jacobi, and he was playing someone with a stammer, surprise, and he was quite naughty. He'd lean on the back of a chair while someone else was talking and kind of stretch his neck and like a cat, and I remember watching Vanessa in Long Day's Journey and thinking, okay, they've got a confidence I don't have, and it's not a rudeness, I think this, but it is a little bit of, okay, well, maybe I'm pulling focus, so pull it back. I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I'm not going to stand here because it's theatrically pretty. I'm going to behave on stage, and if it's pulling focus from you, then why don't you behave on stage and pull the focus back? There's sort of a balance somewhere in the middle, I think, of that approach. I'm not saying that's Vanessa's approach, but that's sort of what I took from watching her. And then there's the sort of perfect stage actor who always stands 3/4 to the audience and doesn't move while the other person's talking and doesn't want to pull focus. That safety, I think there's somewhere in the middle, and that makes performances exciting. Malkovich and Burn This, there is something exciting about watching someone that selfish on stage. I mean, that performance was, good God, but God, it was fun to watch. And I think I landed a little further from the safe end on that spectrum. I don't know why, but yes, I landed with a little more courage and freedom, but I don't know where it came from.
What's next for you, Heather, after this?
I don't know yet. Going back to see what happens. I'm not sure. Is
that exciting or frightening?
Always frightening, and unpredictable because anything can happen. Tomorrow something could come up that I didn't have today. So it's fun. It's totally terrifying though.
Is it still for you too?
No. Nope. I'm not terrified at all. I'm terrified. No, I don't know. I have no idea what's next either, but I don't know. Maybe it's being 45 or having a 4-year-old. I don't know, but I don't know that what happens next work-wise. And it's also a cushy place. I'm in a cushy place. My career is quite. I've had a good 20 years. So I'm mildly curious about what I'm going to do next, but I'm a little more curious about what my daughter is going to do in the talent show at her preschool tomorrow because I haven't seen her do anything yet, talent-wise. But she assures me she has a trick. I don't know what that is, but that intrigues me a little more than my next job, for better or worse.
That seems better. I like that. I like that a lot. Pygmalion runs on the main stage of the Williamstown Theatre Festival through July 27th. Robert Sean Leonard and Heather Linda Dwight, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Again, you can find out more information, WT